5 o'clock, so I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the monthly meeting of the El Dorado Hills Community Council. This is our first meeting in 2022, so welcome to the new year. It is Monday, January the 3rd. So with that, we'll move on to leadership team roll call and then recognition of any District 1 commissioners and committee members who may be present this evening. So if we could do the leadership team rotation, let's start over here with Glenn and go this way. So
Glenn Krakow, Community and Economic Development Advisory Committee.
John Davey, I'm the chair of the El Dorado Hills Area Planning Advisory Committee, volunteer group of residents that examines and explores proposed development projects in El Dorado Hills and provides feedback to the process. Vice Chair Kim White is online virtually with us tonight.
good, thank you for that. I'm John Heidel, District 1 Supervisor.
I'm Cindy Munt, Supervisor Heidel's assistant, and I do community information and outreach for the council.
Michael Williams, chair of the public safety group, and I try and get these customers
problems with the appropriate agency to solve their problem.
And I'm John Mania, District 1 Planning Commissioner and Head of Infrastructure.
Do we have Dick Ross online by chance? I haven't looked to see if he's there.
I don't see him as panelists or as
Okay. Okay, so I think that concludes our community council. So we just note that there's Richard Ross, who handles our good governance, is missing this evening. And we do have the Healthy Communities lead position that's to be filled this evening. And so we'll discuss that later. But with that, do we have any committee or commission members that need to be recognized at this point? Cindy, do you see anybody online? Because I don't have it up.
Online we do. Yes, we have Tita.
Okay. Tita, can you hear us? Can you go ahead and tell us what your role is?
Tita in El Dorado County Commission on Aging.
Thank you. Wendy Mays there?
Mays there.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. I'm sorry, this is the first time since my server's been down that I've checked and been included on Zoom, so I hope you can hear me well, but thank you so much for allowing me to be present. I'm honored to be, and I am one of your directors of our County Tax Assessor Appeals Board.
Thank you, Wendy May. It came through just fine, so good to hear.
Thank you.
And then we have John Raslier, who's on APAC and also serves as an ombudsman. So John, are you there?
Yep, I'm unmuting myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, if you just please briefly describe your role.
I am the vice chair of the El Dorado Hills Area Planning Advisory Committee. I am also a volunteer ombudsman for seniors who are living in assisted living and memory care under the auspices of the federal government and the county, El Dorado County.
Thank you, John. Is anybody else?
No.
And I will just note that the last board meeting in December 15th, I believe it was, we did acknowledge all of the volunteers in El Dorado County that serve in many different capacities, both with the county commissions and committees, as well as other organizations. So I think that was the appropriate tribute and thanks for everyone who volunteers to make El Dorado County a better place. So thank you for that. And so we'll move to item 2, adoption of the regular meeting agenda. Anyone on the leadership team would like to propose any changes? Okay, seeing none, and let's go to public comment. And this is the portion of the meeting we would invite anyone from the public who would like to speak to the leadership team on an item that's not on the agenda tonight is welcome to do so. We would ask that you speak into one of our microphones so we can pick it up on the recording. I think there's the podium over there is probably an acceptable place to do it if you don't have a microphone present in front of you. So anyone who would like to speak at this point, whether it's a comment, a question, a concern, whatever, please feel free to do so if it's not on the agenda. Okay, all right, so we'll move past public comment.
Wait, there's somebody on, John.
Oh, okay.
John Russell put his hand up. Okay,
Okay, go ahead.
put it down. John Rassler, if you wanted to say something.
Oh, yes. Okay, now I can hear you. John Raslier from APAC and also from the Four Seasons Civic League. It's been expressed by community people the feeling that a large box store like Costco adjacent to an elementary school may present certain security issues for the children. And I'm asking you, Supervisor Hydol, could you possibly have a speaker come in from the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office and address whether they have any concerns about this? And also, I think it was mentioned that it would be great if we could reach out to the Folsom Police Department and ask them about any kinds of problems, what kinds of problems they have with a big box store in their community, especially if it is adjacent to a school or close by to a school. So that's kind of like my request. I don't know if your office can handle that kind of thing.
We can certainly make the ask of the Sheriff's Department and I guess the city of Folsom, but city of Folsom has a lot of big boxes. And so I wouldn't want to get too wrapped around what happens at Home Depot versus their Walmart versus whatever. So I think it's probably more germane if we keep it in El Dorado County, but we can certainly inquire with the city of Folsom.
We had those discussions among APAC officers to see who would be good people to address some of the questions as the project moves through the planning and approvals process. The sheriff is on our list. We have not heard back from him yet. So, but we'll reach out again. We did reach out. We talked to the planning department to talk about specific plans and addressing that at a future APAC meeting, as well as Raphael is going to be at our meeting in February. So we have asked a few people, and we've had one response so far. And John seems to have another question.
Okay. Let me just make the statement also that obviously we know Costco will have to do a full CEQA analysis, and part of that is public safety. So there will certainly be an impacts analysis and appropriate statements of mitigation that have to be included in the CEQA document. But it certainly doesn't hurt to discuss that before we get to that point. So, and you had a second comment or question, John?
No, that's it. Thank you very much, John.
Okay, very good. So seeing no other commenters, let's move on to item 4. There are no guest speakers this evening, so we're going to move to Supervisor Communications. Item 5, and I did bring maps that are on the table in the back of the room of the was District 1 and the is District 1 that are actually big enough you can see the streets and the grids and everything else. So for those of you who might be curious, how much did it change? The answer is somewhat, but not significantly, with one exception, and that is everything to the southern boundary of District 1 is now White Rock Road. So everything to the south of White Rock Road is District 2, which would include Four Seasons, the business park, etc. So that is a significant block of properties that has changed in terms of District 1 versus other districts. And then there are some other areas. Bell Ranch got picked up, I guess, because it was determined that the boundaries there made more sense for it to be in District 1 than in District
2.
Well, it was at 2 or 4. I guess 2 in that case.
Yes.
It would be 4 when you talk about north side of Rescue.
Yeah.
Which includes the Catholic Church is now in District 1, which it was not before. So
It wasn't?
it was not. I don't believe so. We can look at the maps.
I know it says El Dorado Hills, so
I
the
don't-
address, but
It says El Dorado Hills because it's 95762, but obviously I don't think it was District 1 if we look at the map.
And that was a question I had when we were going through that process. There's one finger, it's like a street, the site, and part of another street on the south side of Laurel Oaks, on the outside of their wall, or not wall, but the boundary. And then the other Lennar project right there is technically in Cameron Park.
Right.
So that was in District 2, but that street that came out of that, it's very odd. I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but it was,
We can go back and look at the map. So the map is available. I asked Cindy to get a new copy of the.
we're not fixing
Current
anything
district.
tonight. So
We're not changing anything, but for people who might get surprised that they were in District whatever, and now they're in District 1 or vice versa, they were in District 1 and now they're District 2. That information is readily available, and you can actually, I think, do a search by your address. Excuse me, through our GIS surveyor's office. So that's available to anybody who wants to use that tool. Second item, we did have a declaration or proclamation of a state of emergency made by our El Dorado County Sheriff based upon the storm that happened that dumped snow heavily everywhere across El Dorado County above about 2,000 feet in elevation. And as a result, several counties obviously were affected by that. The governor has since declared a state of emergency for various counties that were heavily impacted by the storms that happened, the heavy snowfall and accommodated by a lot of rain as well. So we're included in that. The Board of Supervisors has an item on the agenda for the board tomorrow to basically take and make that claim again, to basically assert that we do have a state of emergency in El Dorado County associated with that storm. And that would also initiate every 30 days, we have a statement made on the board meetings. In fact, we do it at every board meeting, that state of emergency continues until such time as it expires. Excuse me. So the board will be taking action on that tomorrow. The good news is hopefully there will be state funding to help with some of the damage done from the storms, and that remains to be seen how much and where and when, and maybe Chief Lilly, when he gets this report, has some information on that or not, but I don't have a whole lot more than that. So, okay. So those were the only two items I wanted to share for this meeting. Obviously with the holidays and stuff, there was a lot of break time, R&R in there, and that was very helpful, I think, for everybody. So any questions from anybody on the leadership team relative to those two items? Questions or comments?
Pointing at me, I guess. My only observation is that I've heard from some people that are now in District 2, and they're wondering, well, what's the impact? How are we represented at the community council meeting and at APAC? And said, well, Dorado Hills is Dorado Hills. Doesn't matter. But it'd be nice to keep that engagement with people, regardless of what district they're in.
Right. And our interpretation for El Dorado Hills, for the most part, has always been 95762 or something proximate of that.
Yeah.
So it isn't restricted to District 1 or District 2 and
or 4.
And our fire department, I think, has got their boundaries. The CSD's got their boundaries, but clearly 95762 is considered by federal government and others to be the boundaries of El Dorado Hills. So we'll continue to work with that. But anyone who's interested in participating, it's always open.
Yes.
It's not restricted.
That's what I've shared. So.
And I don't think there's going to be any net changes in planning commissioners or anything else as a result of the redistricting. At least I've not heard any comments along those lines. So with that, there's no other leadership team comments, and we'll turn it open to members present in the board room here.
John Rassler.
Go ahead, Wrestler.
I made a mistake. I tried to unmute myself. Forgive me.
Okay,
All right.
no problem. Thank you. On.
Hi, Ron Cassidy, Bridalwood Canyon. My question is with the OES proclamation to the state, is PG&E available to get the funding that comes out of that emergency monies so that they can get repaired faster?
I don't know the answer to that, to be perfectly honest. I don't know what kind of funding comes with this, the governor's declaration.
It's not from the county. My understanding is the proclamation is for the resources in El Dorado County that are expended on solving the problem. And so when a local county declares a disaster, it's really to get financial assistance from the state so that the expenditures the county might make on an emergency repair, upstaffing as public works and all the county employees and the resources of the county were expended on the disaster mitigation. I'm sure there's a PG&E process to where they're
probably making a similar ask for state resources, but I think that would be totally separate from the county, the way I understand it. So,
Yeah, with the new power company that took over January 1st, I don't think that they're responsible for maintaining the power lines because they're PG&E.
now Pioneer Energy is only responsible for the power source, bringing the electrical power to the grid. All of the distribution, metering, and everything else associated with that infrastructure is still PG&E's responsibility. So power outages have to be reported to PG&E, which they should be addressing. The one thing I think Pioneer can help with is they can certainly try to apply influence on PG&E to get things repaired and get them back in operation. But I think PG&E has been overwhelmed with this storm, like most other public utilities have been affected by it have.
Right.
I know EID's had some issues as well. It's not that it's just one entity, so, but yeah, in terms of the funding, I think they would have to apply to the state separately if there's any, it wouldn't be coming through El Dorado County as a source, but CPUC may have other means for PG&E to be reimbursed for these kinds of emergency disasters, whatever. I'm just not aware of those.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions on this? Okay. So with that, let's move on to our leadership team progress reports. We always take public safety first, and I want to take healthy communities last because I want to have a little bit of a discussion about preliminary plans for 2022 relative to healthy communities. So public safety, do we have anyone from our
Alex
sheriffs?
Morton is here. Yes.
Okay. Detective Morton, you're on.
Hi, everyone. Happy New Year's. I'm Detective Alex Morton. I'm with the Sheriff's Office. So I have some numbers to share with you today from the last 2 weeks of December. It was a busy month for us, but I'll just go over some of these numbers. It looks like for December 16th through the 22nd in El Dorado, excuse me, El Dorado Hills, we had a total of 10 crime cases come out of El Dorado Hills. And then for the week of December 23rd to December 29th, we had, looks like a total of 6 crime cases come out of El Dorado Hills. Let me see, it looks like the majority of those are gonna include, looks like we had a vandalism at Jackson School. We had 417, which is brandishing of a deadly weapon. We had a couple of burglaries, both to residences as well as vehicles. We did have a vehicle theft. We had a few, looks like a few petty thefts from a couple local retail establishments as well. So that's a kind of a snapshot on for the property crimes section for the last 2 weeks of December.
Alex, I'm assuming we didn't have any smash and grab type events anywhere in El Dorado County like a lot of other counties were plagued with, correct?
That's correct. We did not have any that we saw any sort of organized retail theft that we've seen on the news. We did not experience any of that.
That's good. That's always good. So
yeah, and we did. I know for a time there we did step up extra patrols in the El Dorado Hills, the town center area. I think that went on for about a week and a half in the town center area. We did have we did staff a deputy there. I want to say the hours were between like 3 and 10 p.m. We had a deputy staffed out there for again a variety of different issues, but mainly to have a ongoing presence there.
excellent. Thank you. Any leadership team member questions for Alex, Detective Morton?
I was just curious, since a lot of people are still at home working, was there any sort of increase, decrease in terms of the porch pirates or activity like that?
So we did not see we did not see an increase. We haven't crunched the numbers on specifically those types of cases for this month of December. But just kind of sitting at my desk and seeing these things come in, I did not see a rise that raised my attention.
Awesome.
That's good news. Any other questions from leadership team members? Anybody online who has a question for Detective Morton? Anyone present in the boardroom who would like to ask a question or make a comment at this point? So, all right, very good. Thank you, Alex. I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Happy
sir.
New Year to you.
Thank you. You too. Thank you.
Do we have anyone from CHP with us?
No.
Okay. So Chief Lilly, you're up then.
All right. So again, Michael Anthal, Deputy Chief with El Dorado Hills Fire Department. I think since we met last, it was day before our Santa run. And it was a great success this year. I saw a lot of you out there. We had a really good turnout at the event, which was nice coming off a year of difference with COVID. So great year, a lot of food, a lot of toys collected, which were donated to Shriners Hospital and the El Dorado County Food Bank. So very successful year. Plus, it was just a lot of fun. It was nice to see people out there and just smiling and having fun, and kind of something positive amongst kind of an interesting year or years that we've had lately. So good event. As far as activity wise, we've had a significant increase in, I would say, house fires, specifically related to heating and type issues. It's been really cold. So fireplace type issues with people on logs, and maybe some dirty fireplaces that cause some issues, garage fire related to fireplace ashes. So on a safety message, I think it's worthy of getting everything out. As you realize, those fireplace ashes stay hot for 3, 4, 5 days. So put those ashes in a metal bucket, put them outside. Don't put them in a paper bag in your trash can or in your garage. You almost certainly, it's amazing how hot they stay. And so a couple issues. The second is one of the families was sleeping. Fortunately, they had smoke alarms that went off. Otherwise, it would have been really bad for this family. Even though the fire wasn't super large, the smoke charging of their house, and husband, wife, and 2 young kids, and it was middle of the night. And I think had they not been alerted to the smoke, that would have been a CO, potentially really bad event. So just a reminder to everybody, have those CO detectors. They're real cheap at Home Depot or Lowe's or any of those type of places, and definitely have your smoke alarms and check those out. Some uptick in vehicle accidents related to the weather. So that's kind of normal, and some flooding calls, which we find to be kind of normal. I think countywide, you saw the impacts of the snow and the power outages, and just a lot of trees came down, way more than normal, as well as wires that came down. So across the county, fire resources are stretched thin. They had extended response times with the snow, and really everyone pitched in, and things went okay. But everyone's seen the impacts out there, especially the power outages and people cold and all the impacts. The Sheriff's Department did a great job, their OES function, kind of managing that and trying to put up warming shelters. Just did a great job. But still, people are suffering the impacts of no power and no heat right now. So I would say countywide, that's been an issue. And then we're excited. We're open for bids for our new training center, phase 1, which has been for the El Dorado Hills community. That's been a training center in the business park we've been working on for a good part of 20 years. And Supervisor Heidel as a board member was involved. And so we're real happy to see phase 1 going out and kind of seeing progress there. And so we look forward to break ground early this year on actual construction. So that'll be a good year for us. With that, end of report, unless there's any questions.
I know the county opened up the Emergency Operations Center, I think at level 2. Have you had involvement with that, or is El Dorado Hills Fire had direct involvement? It's a pretty low level of activity.
Yeah,
but
I personally do. I do our county operational area coordination for the fire department. So I connect with them when they open that up. We communicate across the fire districts. One thing that's really great about our county, and I don't know if it's because we're smaller or just we have a great thing going, is the communication between the sheriff and the OES function with the fire agencies. A fantastic relationship. So they keep us informed. We communicate back and forth. We team up. I've spent time in the EOC, and they're just, it's a really good operation. And I have friends across the state, and they don't all experience that same level of cooperation. So very healthy from my perspective functionally here in having that coordination and communication exist.
good to know. Thank you.
Officer Brown's here.
Oh, okay. We'll pick them. Any leadership team questions for Chief Lilly? Anybody online with their hand up? Anybody in the audience have a question or comment? Okay, so then let's go back to Officer Brown, who's joined us from the CHP, it sounds like. So welcome.
Hi there. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead.
Excellent. Sorry, I had to update my version of Zoom. I was listening and I'm like, I'm here. So, happy to be back. Sorry, I've been gone for quite a few meetings here, but let's get back in the groove of things for the new year. So for this last week or two, it's been pretty overwhelming for the Highway Patrol in Placerville. We've been keeping up with the volume of calls, but it's just been a lot. As Chief Lilienthal was talking about, the level of services has gone up. Just for an example, from the 26th to the 30th, just in the western slope of El Dorado County, the Highway Patrol fielded approximately 1,500 calls for service. If we just take a sample from 2 weeks before, at same time period, same day of the weeks, 650 calls. So from 650 to 1,500. So it was quite a bit of increase in calls for service. So I know from personally, I was out there quite a bit when I usually drive a desk and pulling trees out of the freeway, trying to maintain Highway 50 because once Highway 50 is maintained and free flowing, it kind of relieves the congestion for those who are on surface streets up the hills. And just as a reminder for everyone, and even through today, if your GPS says to get to Tahoe, you need to get off of 50, it's wrong. Please stay on 50. That's the only way to get to Tahoe. Don't take side streets. Still today, side streets and areas are getting inundated with people following their GPS just because it just is not cooperating with us right now. But we're getting through it and people are understanding, and we're happy to help out. Talking about our arcade meeting that we had there down there in Station 85 just this last December 14th. Arcade is our regional campaign against impaired driving, and we were able to kick that off on the 14th down there in El Dorado Hills. We're happy to do it, and we're continuing to move forward with extra enforcement and education campaigns to reduce impaired driving and drunk driving deaths on the roads in El Dorado County. That's our goal. I just kind of want to open it up to field questions. If anyone has questions over the past week, what's been going on? What has the Highway Patrol been doing? What's the problems? What's the solutions? Anyone?
Andrew, I have one question relative to the CHP roles in wellness calls. I know a lot of those go to the sheriff. Do you likewise do wellness calls on people when they phone in and are concerned that somebody may be snowbound and those kinds of things, or do you just relay those back to the sheriff's department?
For residential, yeah, for residential calls, we'll forward those back to the sheriff. If it's like, if it's a attempt to locate or something like that, somebody's traveling from Tahoe, was expected to arrive in Sacramento and they haven't shown up. Yeah, we'll be searching for those as well. But residential welfare checks, those do go to the sheriff.
Okay, very good. Thanks for that clarification. I wasn't quite sure how that all collaborated together and make sure that somebody responds appropriately. So that's good to know.
Yeah.
Leadership team comments or questions?
Yeah, Officer Brown, could you briefly outline the grant program that you outlined for the impaired drivers that you did a few weeks ago?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. So just like a few years ago, our county CHP has been awarded a grant, and specifically the Western Slope, Placerville area, awarded a grant called Arcade, same naming as before. And it's regionally, the reason it's being awarded to us is because regionally in our highways driven, the proportion of highways in the county to, or highway miles to traffic collisions involving DUI and deaths involving DUI is higher than proportionate for the state. And so us and Merced have been awarded an Office of Traffic Safety grant. The lion's share of this money that has been awarded to both us and Merced is directed towards enhanced enforcement and then also education. So we'll be having additional events and funding to get out to events or attend events for educational purposes, but also mainly we'll be having additional enforcement out on the roads in El Dorado County to attempt to, through enforcement, reduce DUI. This month was kind of hit or miss based on the weather and things not cooperating staffing wise. But throughout the year, we're thinking of creative ways to get this up. And this can include officers from all over the region that would regionally come in here potentially and work overtime and arrest DUI drivers in this county.
All right, thank you much.
Yeah. And I'd love to do, I could do a bigger presentation in the future. I'll get with Cindy. I think we can make that happen. Is that all right?
Yeah, please do, Andrew. Appreciate that.
Excellent.
I think we got a couple other questions or comments for you.
Well, Officer Brown, you were so kind to ask about solutions. From the Highway Patrol's perspective, is there a workable solution when we consider, the navigation apps and just how the conditions are posted from Caltrans? I know people think that they're confident in their ability to get where they're going to go or they know the way, but obviously people aren't always prepared for what they're going to encounter. Are there workable solutions? Is there something that would help the Highway Patrol in terms of addressing the situation?
So there has been quite a bit of improvement in communication between Caltrans and our social media GPS partners over there since President's Day a couple years ago. So when we have issues like what we're seeing today or earlier today, where it shows Highway 50 eastbound closed on Google Maps, that information is shared over to TMC, and then they have a channel open that they can direct that communication to Google. Messaging is well thought out by Caltrans as to what they want to say, when they want to say it, as to when people should or should not come up here. But the mentality oftentimes of travelers is that the trip is part of the whole adventure. And they may just stick with it for 6-8 hours to get to Tahoe, who's running out of resources and hotel rooms, as that's part of the adventure. And we just want to encourage people that situations were dire, and we did not need this additional overcrowding on Highway 50. We got through it, and it was something that we got through. But we would like it if you could heed a little bit more Caltrans messaging, CMS signs. When it says "Don't come," please don't come. And we understand that commerce must continue. There must be people that need to get even farther than Tahoe. You're going into Nevada, Minden, Gardnerville, things like that, where those people need resources, fuel, gas, things like that. And so we have to maintain an open road. So a lot of people are very frustrated as to, well, why can't we just close it in Placerville? Some say, why can't we just close it in Folsom? And just to understand the manpower to do something like that would be completely overwhelmingly significant, even just to close it in Placerville, which is not even something that we did during Caldor. We closed it up at Slide Park, where we do now. And that was a situation where highway patrol resources were nearly unlimited, and it still didn't happen then. And in this situation, it was not that situation. So the roads have to stay open, and a lot of people would say, we're over impacted, you guys need to shut down the road. And the answer is, we wish we could in those situations, but sometimes we have to maintain the road to be open. And then also for Highway 50, for those people that are backed up in your neighborhood, it has to be open both directions. It just has to be let to bleed out. We'll get through this. We'll take some deep breaths. And we're going to make it happen. But it was very rough, very difficult. And I don't think it was as bad as President's Day weekend. I think things got better. I think people listened to messaging more. I think our messaging was a little better, simpler, more concise. But I encourage everyone to share it out there that Twitter is probably the best social media platform that Caltrans is utilizing to make notifications on road conditions. But also at the same time, if the National Weather Service in Sacramento is saying travel highly advised, extremely hazardous, and although Caltrans is saying Highway 50 is open, maybe you shouldn't go. And that's a decision that people have to make educatedly on their own. If the road is open, obviously it's available and legally available for you to travel on. But let's make some smart decisions, and only you can make those. But hopefully we don't have to make those for you. The weather make those for you if you end up in a ditch or into a tree or sideways. So just like I said, it took a lot of work. Caltrans took a lot of work to get those roads closed, and it just takes a lot of time. The snow just keeps on coming, and it just takes a lot of time to get rid of it.
Thank you. That's you guys have a difficult task in the best of situations, and when it's compounded by weather like that, that's a lot of work. We appreciate it.
And the messaging went all the way out to the Bay Area. CMS signs on Caltrans, controlled CMS signs, changeable message boards overhead. We're all the way into Dixon and beyond for eastbound traffic, saying Highway 80 is closed, Highway 50 not advised. Please don't travel up here. And then it's some pretty aggressive messaging that they were putting out there, and then they lightened it up over the past couple of days. Yeah, it was a lot. So hopefully people heed it and understand. But like I said, goes back to the mentality of the trip is part of the adventure for some people. And I think that's the majority of the kind of people that we were dealing with, where, you know, they're okay with sitting 7 hours in traffic. So, and that's a difficult person to deal with, because like I said, if the road is open, it is legal for them to travel there. And we know they're going to a place that has no services for them, possibly, but they are grown adults and they have to make those decisions.
Very good. Any other questions or comments from leadership team meeting members? Not seeing anybody online with their hand up. Anybody present in the audience who'd like to ask Officer Brown a question or make a comment at this point? Yes, please identify yourself.
Yes, I'm Kristen Larkin, a resident of the street. Officer, of the sheer influx of phone calls, we've been trying to be mindful of our calls and reporting speeding. So we've held off this past couple of weeks. That's going to continue to alert you guys to this ongoing problem. And that's going to request the speed readout training.
I'm having some difficulty hearing. I'm sorry, it's very low volume.
If you got, can you come up to the microphone, please? Sorry, we should have asked you to do that ahead of time.
Which one is that? Whatever my calls.
Either one, you go to that one or go to that one.
That's fine. Yeah. Thank you,
Hi, Officer
Kristen.
Brown. Can you hear me now?
Yes, very clear. Thank you.
Perfect. Sorry, I didn't see the little table mics. Kristen Larkin, I'm a resident just up the street in the Ridgeview neighborhood. We've held off on calling in to report speeders, just kind of understanding there would be a sheer influx of phone calls for the holiday season. And just with the storms and everything, but we've had an ongoing problem in the neighborhood. Curious, sorry, the mask. Curious on the best way to go about calling to report this ongoing problem to alert you guys without adding to the sheer number of phone calls. Both myself, we have family who live on the street, other neighbors are concerned. So what would be the best way to go about kind of addressing this? And then also, what would be the best way to request the speed readout trailers? We see the additional signs where we are. It's downhill around a bend. So we've had many, many near misses, even taking out the garbage. So I think a speed readout where it actually displays people's speeds, so they're not only aware of the speed limit, but how fast they're going. So just thinking about, again, with everything that you guys have on your plate, the best way for concerned citizens to continue to flag this, but then also to address it.
Yeah, thanks for pitching a softball to me. This is great. So the best thing that you can do is call our area office Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And what we do is we maintain a traffic complaint system where we get these complaints out in front of our patrol officers for patrol. If it's an active, ongoing emergency situation, like there's a car burning donuts right in front of my house, you can always call 911. That is an emergency. That's something that needs to be looked at right away. But for chronic speeding issues, please call area code 530-748-2450. And one of us will field it here at the office. We'll be able to get your information, the exact location, approximate times. Maybe there's a specific vehicle that's that problem child around there. And we can take hopefully appropriate enforcement action. And then also we can put you in the queue for that speed trailer. We're going through some repair issues with it, but it should be up and running pretty soon.
Thank you, Kristen, for the question. Anyone else present in the conference room here? Okay, again, I want to thank you, Andrew, for your participation and sharing with us that information. And we'll look forward to another discussion in the month of February. So keep up the good work. Obviously, with the snow season upon us, we're going to have challenges everywhere in the snow country. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Okay, so we've completed public safety, unless Chief Mo wanted to make any additional comments on anything related to fire service. I think Chief Lilly covered it, but if you had a burning item you wanted to bring up. Burning item. Is there anything related to burning going on in El Dorado Hills? No, I'm kidding.
Happy New Year. We did get our 2 new engines in service.
Yes.
Fire training center. We're still moving forward in that process.
Yep, very good. So, all right, let's move on into economic development, and we'll turn it over to Glenn.
Okay, I've got some notes here so I don't forget anybody. Pioneer Community Energy is beginning their takeover of providing electricity generation in our county from PG&E, non-solar producers. So if you do not have solar, you have converted unless you decided to opt out. I contacted them and had them do an analysis of my bills, and their analysis shows I should save 7% at my home and 3% at my business. And I'm going to be doing that comparison just to be sure, but it looks pretty good. Customer service at Pioneer can help with that and any other questions that you may have. And you also have the opportunity to opt out if you prefer PG&E to be the producer of electricity for you, or to do the electricity purchasing on your behalf is what they do. Let's see, many of you probably know Emmig's Hardware, Emmig's Ace Hardware and Outdoor Living Stores are two stores that are going side by side into the location formerly taken over by CVS in the marketplace at Town Center. And they anticipate, I guess, getting started in the spring. I'm not sure when they tend to be open, but I think there's a significant remodel going on. Potentially $1 million, I think I heard.
Improvement, remodel, yeah. 'Cause
Right.
they've got to convert that to, yeah, the proper kind of configuration for their needs. Right?
And it's two businesses that are
Right.
taking
And
the
second
space.
business, I think, is going to make it an attraction for people who didn't serve the previous El Dorado Hills hardware stores very well, to the point that they went out of business. And that is the outdoor living type of center and stuff, because I think that will get a lot of people's stopping by, shopping and that sort of thing, which just a hardware store ends up being more of a guy's thing. And so I think that's a good balance, personally. I really
That
do.
old Ace Hardware, they had a family issue that caused a problem, and we were much smaller.
Right, and they had to compete with a lot of big boxes where the discounts.
And they were all new at the time.
Yes, right. So hopefully we've learned the lesson from that, and I'm very hopeful they're very successful, because I think it's a great location, and I think it's a service that's much needed. We only have one Cameron Park hardware store that does a lot. Well, okay, there is two. The one I'm most familiar with is right off of Highway 50, which is easy to frequent and stuff.
Churchill's, yeah. The other one's the True Value, or it's an Ace on Dorado.
Used to be. So Cameron Park, with a population of 19,000, has two hardware stores, and El Dorado Hills has 0 if you don't include the Redwood facility, Burco, which to me, they're not a hardware store. They're a lumber yard, kind of, somewhat, but they don't have a
specialty
wide
lumber.
specialty items. So
what's the second business?
It's outdoor living, outdoor furniture.
It's the same ownership, Amy Hardware in Sacramento. They have a big Ace Hardware facility, and then the building next to them is an outdoor living center.
Right.
Patio furniture.
Pool stuff, that type of thing. Yeah. So I think that's going to help make it successful.
It's very busy in Sacramento.
Yes.
It's been there forever too.
And they're a known name with a lot of experience, so that's another major factor that we hope them, great success.
Right.
So,
They're an experienced family operator.
we got a letter put together. Welcome. Okay, that's good.
The only negative I heard was, someone made a comment about supporting a local business with Churchill, which is true, but this is also a local family business, even though it's a national brand. It's still a local ownership. EDH 52, which is the Costco project, is still moving forward. Let's see, their initial EIR work is working with transportation on alignment scenarios to be analyzed for the project that I got from Econ Development. So they are moving forward. The Aloft Hotel in Town Center, the permit was issued, and they should be breaking ground and starting construction in the spring. And I guess the Montano Center is also starting their expansion.
Are they starting? I haven't heard from Final in a while. So
No, what I saw was same goes for Montano. So
okay, good deal.
I sounds like they have a
They
permit
have a formal application in for the hotel.
or a permit. I'm not sure.
Well, they just have to pull permits for it, right? That's because the project was approved. It's a plan development.
Right.
And they had a hotelier identified when they were.
Why did I think that take the special use permit though with the zoning? There's something there that.
No,
No,
everything's done discretionary wise. They just need to pull their building permits.
You reviewed it for quite a long time.
Right,
So
right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Have they pulled a permit?
that I don't know.
I have not heard that. So that would be good news.
Well, the way it was worded to me was a loft permit was issued, and it says same for Montana.
Okay, all right.
So maybe they did get a permit. And the El Dorado Hills Business Park continues to get a lot of inquiries. Nothing is moving, but it's been very popular of late. And so they don't have anything to report yet. CDAC, the committee that I've chaired for the past year, will be providing our annual review to the Board of Supervisors next week. And we are working on developing work plan for 2022. And if anybody does have any interest in sharing ideas or anything with our committee, they could certainly contact me through Supervisor Heidel's website, through Cindy Muntz as well. They can get a message to me as well as we prepare for 2022. That's my update, unless anybody has questions.
Maria has her hand up.
Let's do the leadership team first. Anybody have any questions or comments on that report? I remember what it was. I was thinking about Montano. I was thinking it was the amphitheater outdoor event thing that required a conditional use permit because of the sound levels. Did they back off on that?
They just have to do the
They have,
initial.
what we had worked out with them is that they have to use the same sound system. Because the concern was if you have different folks coming in that have different sound systems, you can't control that. So when they come in with the sound system, the sound technician is going to have to, dial it in and make sure it meets the county requirements.
And they're doing one test, the first event, was that it?
Yeah.
Similar to,
Okay.
Yeah.
But no
no, so-
conditional use permit requirements with periodic checks or anything else. It's just a one-time check.
Well,
and then
that's done as part of the approval process, Yeah. So it'll be done as part of the permit process. It's, it's in the mitigation measures as part of the conditions of approval.
We've had complaints and noise in other areas, and I'm anticipating complaints. So I'm trying to figure out how
In that
this is
area,
really going to
yeah.
work.
Well, that's always a question about the noise. A lot of things are, the mitigation monitoring is always dependent upon a resident complaining. So there's really not, we have more code enforcement people now, so maybe they'll be a little more active, but typically
staff is required to sign off, check off on the mitigation measures when the project's approved and when it's built. So in theory, they're supposed to be doing that and confirm that they're meeting the requirements of the conditions of approval.
Okay. So they were granted a conditional use permit at the time it went through the planning commission review. Is that correct?
As far as I know, along with a whole bunch of other things. So
Okay.
all have fun, yeah.
All right, very good. Any questions for Glenn? Anyone here? Leadership team, seeing none. Anyone present in the audience? Okay, and then let's go to the Zoom
Okay,
participants.
it's Maria.
Maria White?
Unmute. Did it work?
There you go. Yep, you're good. Go ahead, Maria.
Oh, relief. Just wanted to let you know I'm here, but that's not why I'm got my hand raised. I've been following this Pioneer Energy thing, and I really think I've had a super open mind, but it occurs to me that it's now January and we haven't gotten anything in the mail. No notices, nothing. Are we the only people who haven't gotten this? I mean, should we be concerned? We do live in El Dorado County. I mean, Glenn, how are we? I mean, are we supposed to reach out to find out what is happening, or is this just going to flip over and we don't do anything? I mean, other than what we're reading online, and what we've heard at meetings, personally, we haven't gotten anything.
Well, they did do a mailing to every ratepayer address in the county that they were required to do by law. And they did have their informational meetings. Now, as far as needing to do anything, you do not need to do anything if you're willing to let Pioneer purchase electricity that's associated with your bill. Basically, where they should be saving you, their expected savings from you is 7%. And if you do not want to switch, you can opt out a number of ways by calling them online. It's a pretty simple process, but you really don't have to do anything. It's a seamless process. You will continue to get your bill from PG&E, and it will just say Pioneer on the line item part of your bill that says generation. So for you, there's really no change unless you don't want them to be purchasing the electricity.
Glenn, that wasn't quite my question. I mean, this is Maria White.
Right, Maria, let me take a cut at it. They are required by law to send everybody a mailing who will be affected by it. I've had one other known report to me directly that they didn't receive it. I contacted Pioneer and they said to send them a second mailing. So I can't explain the lack of delivery, but they are required to do it. They think they've completed that task, but there is no record of receipt, right? So it's up to the US Postal Service to deliver it to you, and it's up to you to understand that this is something you either look at or you throw away, but at least you received it. So I'm guessing there may be some gaps in the USPS or something else in terms of addressing. I don't know how to explain it, but I haven't heard more than one other complaint from it personally.
I've heard residents that have gotten it and they threw it away and they didn't know what it was because it looked like junk
Well, that's
mail.
a different story.
Well, no, I mean, that's what I've heard. And I've heard it from about a dozen people. And when you show them the one, they, oh yeah, I did get that. I threw it away. But Maria, do you have solar?
No, John, we do not. And we do
remember.
have a locking mailbox, and our letter carrier, his name is Tim, not the one I'm married to. So we know our mail carrier. He delivers to our house. Nobody is stealing our mail. And you know, we're involved in social media, but if we weren't, we'd have no clue. Absolutely none.
Maria, let me
Nothing
give
has
you a name
arrived.
and a phone number to call, and they will send you the notice you should have received. That's the only thing I know how to do at this point. Is that okay?
Sure. I mean, that's what we need to do, right?
Yes, I think you should have received the mailing so that you had all the information that is necessary to be compliant with state requirements. So, and it might serve somebody else's need as well. So let me give you the name and the phone number. The name I'm going to give you is Alexia Ritalik.
Okay, we've heard her speak a couple of times.
Yes, right. So her work number is 916-758-8948. And I'm going to give you her mobile too. It's 916-298-8929. If you would report to Alexia what you just reported to us, I'm sure they'd be happy to send you a second notice, and hopefully that will come through to you. So because you deserve to receive the information.
Yes, and I will go ask my neighbors who else perhaps has not heard.
Yes, well, the more inputs we make to them, the better off they are. I mean, I don't know how to explain why people don't receive things other than for a lot of people, and I'm not saying this is your case, they did receive it, they didn't recognize what it was, but when shown what it is, then yeah, they trashed it. So,
well, having worked with our postal system for many years, there is a very small percentage of mail that does not get delivered for one reason or another. It can be damaged in transit, and it may not be the mail carrier to your house. It passes through many people from wherever the mail is generated up until it gets to your mailbox. So there's plenty of areas that it could fail, and we do know of people who missed it. You can get it from Pioneer. I'm willing to scan a copy that I have and email to people if they want it. I can do that too.
But to understand, excuse me, the fallacy of you not hearing depends on people expecting this. If you don't even expect it, you wouldn't know you missed it.
Correct.
and that's the communication issue we always face with trying to keep people informed of what's changing and what's happening. And so anyway, I think we'll probably leave it at that. I do know that there are possibility of errors, but if you contact Alexia, I'm sure they'd be happy to send you the appropriate notification so you have that in hand and understand how easy it is to opt out and all those other things. And you can certainly call them back and ask questions at your convenience, because they are trying to be very responsive to those kinds of questions for all of the new El Dorado County and the city of Placerville participants in Pioneer Energy. So that's the best I can suggest at this point.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else, Cindy, online with that?
No.
Okay, thank you, Glenn, for your report. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah. So let's just go down the line, infrastructure, and I chose the historical growth rates and some forecast housing needs that were presented to the Board of Supervisors, an item to talk about, because that will affect infrastructure. So John, do you want to lead off?
I'll throw in something, you got something to add, feel free to jump in. And of course, you know, the growth rates, you know, have been greatly discussed. And I don't know, maybe ex-Commissioner Williams may even call in if he's hearing this, so. But as we all know, you know, El Dorado Hills, the majority of the growth is going on down here. Historically, from 2010 to 18, we suffered, or not, I guess suffered, or we experienced 1.81% annual growth rate in El Dorado Hills. The remainder of the West Slope was 0.11% annually. So a majority, upwards over 80%, occurs down in El Dorado Hills. So, so that's nothing earth-shattering, and also to and this is a document that the Board of Supervisors had here with this last month. Supervisor Heidel, I believe it was. But on the housing growth, I think the projections between 2018 and 40 are about 58% is going to be occurring in El Dorado Hills. In addition to that, job growth is projected to be 41% down in El Dorado Hills in that same time period of 2018 to 40. So a lot of needs in El Dorado Hills. So I don't know what you wanted to add to that specifically.
Well, and in this case, El Dorado Hills is essentially 95762. So that's what the county, I think, is using for that. It's not District 1 or District 1 and District 2 or whatever. It's 95762. But yeah, so the calculation I made said that 94% of the growth that occurred between 2010 and 2018 was in El Dorado Hills, which is consistent with our fire department numbers about new residential starts, et cetera. So District 1 and District 2 primarily over that period. And so that's one of the things that I wanted to make sure that was recognized. There was a newspaper article on it that described that as well. Because for some people, they think there's been balanced growth across the county, and that's absolutely not the case. The forecasts do show a projection for more balanced growth. In some of the more remote regions, Diamond Springs, El Dorado is expected to receive 5% of the growth between 2018 and 2040. So not a lot. But we do know there's a project up there called El Dorado
Oaks.
El Dorado Oaks. Diamond El Dorado.
Dorado Oaks.
Dorado Oaks. That would almost accommodate that 5% in one project. So you have to take some of this with a grain of salt, not knowing exactly what's changing, but this was the best forecast they could provide. The balance of the West Slope is only going to receive 12% of the growth. Placerville is expected to see 2% of the growth. And again, El Dorado Hills is 58% of the growth over that 22-year period. So just a heads up on what the plans are and what may be changing. And then likewise, there was projections for, as John mentioned, the jobs growth, which is another major factor here, because the general plan includes a jobs to housing ratio that the county has failed to provide sufficient jobs to meet that ratio for 15, well, since the general plan was approved in 2004. So what is that? That's 17 years, something like that.
Working on 18.
Yeah,
Working on 18,
we're 22,
right?
yeah.
So that's never been achieved, and I'm really doubtful that we'll ever be able to get to the projected growth numbers, but at least we have some projections.
Can I ask you a question before you get too much further?
Yeah.
To either of the gentlemen. Being El Dorado Hills has a projected build out population and date, and are developers starting to look at other places in the county for that continued need? Or will the county stop growing?
The county will continue to grow. It's consistent with what the general plan defines as residential, single family, multifamily properties that are available, and the desire of developers to develop those properties. So what this is trying to do is it's trying to look out to 2040 and say, when El Dorado Hills meets that final number for what the population can be within 95762, and there's always some infill that can come later, generally minor. But the majority of the housing that's been completed, then other parts of the county would expect to see some more growth consistent with these numbers. But they don't tell you in this particular report what the phasing would be of shifting from El Dorado Hills getting to a build out number and then moving to other parts of the county. That's not.
I know in the newspaper article, they also mentioned, you know, you'll expect to see some of that growth will start to move back into Cameron Park.
Yes.
But Cameron Park is also pretty constrained as to what the general plan says will happen in Cameron Park. So we're kind of on a parallel path in terms of,
Well,
you know, they don't have the capacity we do, but
you look south of Highway 50, if you consider that Cameron Park, or what you consider that, because there's two major projects down there, as
yes,
you know.
yeah.
It would be a substantial amount of growth if they were approved and move forward.
And I think, was it Natalie that mentioned it, that that's just sort of, it's a path that just keeps moving eastward as, you know, the available land gets built out in terms of general plan. Will there be changes to the general plan? Will somebody ask for an amendment? Sure.
It's not included in this. So you got rezones and general plan amendments that kind of changes the deal over time. So
I'm just curious because if we do ever reach a build out, or if that keeps, you know, if they keep moving that
Right.
that boundary a little bit, that could
The other
change it
number
too.
that's important is the average annual growth rate, this forecast between 2018 and 2040 for the whole county, and that's 0.7%. So less than 1% average annual growth per year. So
which is what it's also been.
right. So it's going to take a while for all of these housing projects to occur as things move on, and there will be shifting around, and there may be rezoning in certain places.
Yeah, and as you also mentioned, there are projects that are either proposed right now or already approved. That, you know, the rest of Valley View, Blackstone, all that, there's still development going on there. So it's all part of that puzzle.
Right.
But,
Right.
yeah.
But in theory, it's going to stop at some point.
Yeah.
The part that surprised me the most on the forecast, I guess, is the projected jobs growth for El Dorado Hills. That's 41%. And so the rest of the growth is supposed to occur in other areas like Cameron Park at 15%, and the balance of the West Slope at 20%, and Diamond Springs, El Dorado at 15%. I don't see a tremendous amount of business jobs growth in those areas right now, but maybe it's coming.
Cameron Park has a couple of small projects, a couple of coffee shops, and
Right. And some
things
of
like
that may
yeah.
be based upon the housing projections that the support businesses will come, and that's where the jobs will come.
Right.
The sad part about that is those are not necessarily middle or high income paying type jobs.
Absolutely true. So the good news is there's a forecast, which is always, I think, important to understand, has limitations. They're never completely right on, that are trendy type of thing. But at least we have current historical numbers and we have a forecast to work with. And we just wanted to make sure with this item that the public was aware of the work that DOT had done, working with the consultant to bring all that information together. And we will include it in a link to it. The presentation was made in the minutes, so that when the minutes get distributed, anybody wants to look at the more detailed numbers. And there was also a presentation made by county staff that addressed a particular item relative to development agreements, which has been a matter of discussion with APAC and others. So there was a presentation on development agreements and the policy statements, et cetera, that provide a little bit more information on that as well within the same briefing package. So we'll get that out with the minutes and everybody will have access to it. So that was the main thing, keep people informed of history and forecasts. So with that, is there any leadership team questions on that particular infrastructure report? Questions or comments? Anyone in the room here, the conference room, that has any questions or comments on that report? All right, so let's go to the online members.
Oh, there's Tim White.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're fine, Tim. Go ahead.
Okay, well, Happy New Year, everyone. John, you actually just sort of addressed it when you said the policy talks about development agreements. And I sort of wanted to mention that in connection with both the job growth and the residential growth that's predicted over the next 20 years or so. You know, development agreements are very important as these new projects are considered and addressed. And we often see that the development agreements provide, I don't want to say a bounty for the rest of the county, but they certainly provide generous amount of enactments that go to the county as a whole, and less so that stay in the El Dorado Hills area. And it's the residents of El Dorado Hills that are affected by these developments, whether it's traffic, air quality, call on emergency services, things like libraries even, because that's where the growth happens. So I'm hoping that when new projects are approved or when there's a new policy with respect to how development agreements are negotiated, that we're able to sort of get a little bit more back to the area that's most affected by these projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. Who else?
Maria.
Maria, your turn.
How come he's Tim White and I'm Maria?
I don't know.
It's like Beyonce, it's one name. We know you. We know you.
Oh,
Maria White, please share with us your wisdom.
oh, shut. Oh, sorry. I want to talk. I need to talk. Okay. I'm trying to phrase this question or this idea. I mean, we don't have high paying jobs in this area. The people who are living here are paying a lot of money to live here. There's a lot of noise that there's no such thing as affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
And why should we build affordable housing when there are people who are willing to pay a lot of money to live here? I mean, if I were building housing, I want to build housing that would attract people, right? Right. So is there any way, is there any kind of movement? Is there any kind of statement, any kind of project going on that we could say as a community, and this is not countywide, this is really about El Dorado Hills. Do we want to attract any kind of housing that is remotely considered affordable? And at this day and age, it's under $500,000.
I'm going to give John the first opportunity to respond to this. Mr. Pena.
I'll defer back to Supervisor Heidel.
I will tell you that the county has tasked with our planning and building department with coming back with some proposals as to how we would be able to accomplish affordable housing, including things like inclusionary housing constraints, a policy that would do that to require inclusionary housing, various other approaches. One of the things that's been emphasized is the need to look at our zoning that would allow tiny homes. And by that I mean those that are trailerable versus micro homes, which are generally on a small foundation, but they're not trailerable. So micro homes or the other form of housing that basically would allow people to live in a more dense environment, but in a properly designed and accommodated development. I don't know, you'd call it a subdivision.
You mentioned accessory dwelling units.
Well, that's separate. Accessory dwelling units would be a different approach to that. And there are various things. SB 9 also allows single family residential properties to be divided up and have multiple structures on them in addition to accessory dwelling units. So there's a lot of things the state is doing to try to promote, I'll call it, more affordable housing. But from the county's perspective, we are anticipating a report out from our staff with some recommendations on what works for El Dorado County in terms of the right kinds of incentives and or changes to zoning and or pre-approved ADUs, which is one of the things they're working on, is a couple of different designs of ADUs that would be pre-approved. So if you come in to the county and say, I want to build an accessory dwelling unit and I want to use your design too, it's basically pre-wired. You get approval on it instantaneously because all the engineering and all the other things associated with that design have already been reviewed and approved. So that's one of the things we're doing amongst many to try to encourage more affordable housing. But when it's all said and done, you have to have a willing builder and you have to have a property owner that's willing to make accommodations to make it happen. So,
and as part of that, you also have to have the market.
Well, but the market is there for affordable housing. I can tell you the demand is there. Let's put it that way.
I understand that.
At what price though?
Well, no, that, I mean, we say the market is there, but really if it's affordable, you're looking at people commuting a long way if there's not a job.
A lot of these are seniors that are moving out of
That's a
certain
different-
places
yeah.
and trying to find a place that's affordable they can live in because their pensions are running out and they need to sell their property. It's a different
Yeah.
demographic, but that demographic is prevalent in El
We
Dorado.
probably have a little more exposure to that than other similar sized counties. so.
Yes, right, because of our high population of seniors within the county, and many of those are getting to the point that just normal social security payments are not paying all the bills, right? With the cost of, with inflation and everything else, costs going up. So there's definitely a need for affordable housing, and the county's trying to figure out what we can do to encourage it to be accomplished. But the county can't go out and drive affordable housing measures. So, well, at least not in my opinion.
Well, and we should be clear that, you know, stuff like the recent changes to the accessory dwelling units and like a SB 35, those are dictated by the state.
Right.
And with some of the changes that we made recently at the Planning Commission and the board, we basically put ourselves in alignment with the state regs concerning those things. So a lot of that stuff is coming down from the state, but you know, we're trying to do additional means like you've said with the permitting and plans process to help streamline that. So there's certain things we can do in our capacity, but a lot of that stuff's coming down from the state.
Right, and so I'm going to throw out the word homeless as well, and when we talk about affordable housing, because clearly there's a need for housing that's suitable for homeless who want to better their lives and get back to contributing members of society. So that's a long-standing need. It's called sustainable housing or whatever you want to call it, but that's a need that's definitely within the county, as well as the other affordable housing needs. So there's, I don't think there's any question. There's a need, there's a demand. Can you find the supply to match it? That's the key. That's a long-winded answer, but hopefully you got what you wanted, Maria, or you didn't, one of the two.
Well, when I think of affordable housing, I'm not moving towards housing the homeless in the sense that I'm not expecting an answer or a conversation at this time. But certainly if we can look at it in terms of there are people who now live in El Dorado Hills are looking to downsizing for whatever reasons, and those facilities are not here for them, for us, because the day may come when we want smaller homes on smaller lots. And presumably those will also be less or more affordable than what we're seeing now. So perhaps that's a way of attacking the issue rather than terrifying people that we might have, for lack of saying, we won't have people who look like us living near us. I hope that didn't sound the way it did sound, but I really do think that people think that way.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on that one, but obviously what the county's trying to do is equal opportunity housing for everybody. And that's the, you know, the mandate from the state and other people. So personal opinions aside, that's what we're striving for. So thank you for your comment. Anybody else?
I had one additional item.
Yeah.
I'm sure some of you have noticed the outdated changeable message board signs on Highway 50 for the Bass Lake Road eastbound off ramp.
Oh yeah, thanks.
I put in a call to Raphael, and I know it's the holidays and stuff, but I have not heard back from him. And as best I can guess, you know, the only activity I see is the ramp metering stuff that's being done, but we're supposed to have a signal, a full functioning traffic signal.
I had a call in November because when they put the changeable reader boards out, the dates kept changing daily. And there's some dissatisfaction with the contractor. That's where I've heard. And again, the only reason I didn't call them when we hit December 17th and ask, still says December 17th, it's December 26th, is because it's a holiday. We had a big winter event, a lot of more fish to fry at that time, but yeah, there was some dissatisfaction.
Well, and people tend to disbelieve us, you know, that stuff when it goes unchecked.
Well, a lot of people thought the metering lights, the small yellow flashing lights, you know, that are about eye level, thought those were the traffic signals. I was like, no, that's not it.
No.
So
I'll hopefully have an update next month, but I was hoping to have something tonight. But again, giving grace for, you know, getting over the holidays and stuff. So But that's all I got.
I'll tell you, the biggest challenge that DOT has had is the snow levels in Tahoe. That's just been running them ragged, trying to get the snow removal equipment, get extra staff. So they are stretched really thin because of the heavy snow load that they're trying to deal with up there. So
It's not just Tahoe. I mean, Georgetown had a problem for a
well,
while.
Georgetown as well, but Tahoe is the biggie
Yeah,
that
well, yeah.
we get all the calls from for the most part.
The people are,
Georgetown
yeah.
As well, yeah. Other
That's all I
areas,
have.
but you're right. So, okay, very good. Anything else? All right, let's move to good governance. And Richard wasn't with us, but I did want to acknowledge that the county received a letter on December 10th from the Cal OES, and it represents the United States Small Business Administration Physical Disaster Declaration related to Caldor. And it says that they've declared the county of El Dorado and the contiguous counties of Alpine, Amador, Placer, and Sacramento as disaster areas. And what that does allow is some individual assistance through the Small Business Administration. So we didn't get the federal level from our president acknowledgement that was supposed to go through FEMA to override FEMA's ruling that we would not get individual assistance, but we do have this individual assistance from the Small Business Administration for individuals as well as businesses. So I want to make that clear. If anybody knows of a Caldor victim who's trying to find some individual assistance, this information is available, the application, qualifying criteria, et cetera. We put it on our social media. I think it's gone out. But to me, this is a good governance thing where Cal OES followed up after they submitted stuff to FEMA and knocked on the second door, I guess, essentially, or knocked probably on the same doors, the two doors at the same time, both trying to get FEMA to give us individual assistance and then the Small Business Administration. So this one was successful. The efforts with FEMA to date have not been. So, and that's at the point where the president would have to overrule FEMA on their recommendation, and none of us have seen any indication that's likely to happen. So I'll leave it at that on that one. Health and Communities we're going to do last. So let's move to APAC.
Let's. We are having a meeting in January. We had talked about not having a meeting because there are very few project updates. The meeting will be here on the 12th, 6:30 p.m. start instead of the 7. We're trying to get it a little earlier so people can get home and enjoy their families a little earlier in the evening. Those make for long evenings when we have some intense topics sometimes. But the primary topic of this meeting, and the only reason we're doing it is because they submitted their formal applications to Town and Country Village El Dorado at Country Club and Bass Lake Roads. I've seen some of the project documents. They're not on the county website yet, but they did submit them on December 30th, and they asked in November if they could come in January, and we just thought they've been before APAC several times, and they've been very generous with their time. We thought it might be a bit too much to have it every other month having this topic, but it's all been conceptual until now. Now they have a formal application. And so the Mahana Development Group will be here and letting us know what the final application looks like as they submitted to the county. And then we might have a small subcommittee update on some of our subcommittee activity. And then our meeting following that will be on February 9th. And we'll be hearing from Rafael Martinez about traffic and circulation enhancements and projects in the area, Dorado Hills, specifically south of the freeway, but other items as well. So it will be an in-person meeting, but we'll also be doing it virtually like we're doing this one tonight. So I encourage everyone to come on by, and we'll try to get you out in 90 minutes. Less? Question mark? So
that's the goal, right?
That is the goal. 60 minutes would be great.
It's a noble goal. Yes. Okay, that's good. Well, thank you, John, for the report. Community information and outreach. Cindy.
Well, after the holidays, there's not a whole lot going on in January. On January 21st, there's going to be the El Dorado County 4th Annual Tourism Summit. It is going to be here at the El Dorado Hills Holiday Inn Express. We have several great speakers. It's an all-day event. It's from 9 to 5:30. They'll be talking about how to increase tourism again in El Dorado County. They're providing lunch and then refreshments, and then they'll have some El Dorado wines at the end of the event there. And January 29th, El Dorado Hills Rotary Crab and Tri-Tip Feed. It will be from 6 to 10 p.m. at the El Dorado Hills CSD. They're going to have a Hawaiian theme, and they're going to be, I believe they're having, they're going to be doing raffles and stuff. So I believe that this is one that was supposed to be last year. Is this the rescheduled
Sure,
one?
Mike.
Yeah, that's right.
This is the
One that's rescheduled.
annual one. It's one of the big fundraisers they do.
Okay.
Fund directly.
Get your tickets early.
Get your tickets.
I've got mine.
That's it.
Are they gonna have a drive up and pick up,
I
for,
think it was all on.
they did that at the fairgrounds event, and I thought that was highly successful. And for some people who are concerned with COVID, that seemed to be a workable solution because you didn't have to go into a larger setting. And
At the moment, it's still planned in person there.
okay, all right,
The kind of old format.
all right, very good. The last item then we're going to go back to real quick is healthy communities. We did have 2 people indicate an interest in the appointment. One of them recently decided that they had some family emergencies, if I understood it right, and needed to defer any discussion of that. And I will mention that I'm more than willing to accept co-leads in any of these positions. So we can always look at that in the future if that makes sense. But Angie Platt did indicate that she was interested early on. And I'm not sure if we ever got a bio information on
She's on
her.
vacation, so she's sending it to us when she gets
But we
back.
didn't receive it. So
No, she hasn't gotten back from vacation yet.
can you give us some background and where her level of expertise is, more primarily in mental health, right?
She's a family therapist. I
Yep.
wonder if I still have her hard information. I don't have.
Okay,
the whole-
so we'll get in more of that when I guess but I would like to officially appoint Angie to the position of our Healthy Communities lead, and we'll hopefully be able to have her participate in our February meeting and get off to a discussion. The other thing I wanted to just briefly mention was that we have plans of following up with the mental health special forum that we started. We had one with a number of participants, and we want to expand that out with a little bit more focus on specific incidences where they've happened in El Dorado County and what can be done. I've reached out and made good contact with a member of NAMI, the current president of NAMI, who has a lot of good information, and NAMI's got some recommendations for people how the community can help. And that's the part we want to start sharing, is how can we as individuals get more involved with this and try to help the awareness process for those who are struggling with mental illness, and make sure that, that we do everything we can to encourage them to seek help, as opposed to waiting until there's a crisis. And then our psych team or the sheriff's office or somebody needs to respond to a call, which is never going to end well. It's going to end badly no matter what happens, pretty much. So try to deal with it early, avoid the crisis is kind of the theme of that. So we will be inviting a new panel of speakers. The coordination will occur with the people who got started, as well as Angie, and we'll try to make it, again, very informative and give you the next layer of what can you do to help the situation to improve awareness and seeking treatment for mental illness. We had good participation from even Oak Ridge High School last time around, and so we'll have that total discussion. It's every age group, right? It's from our very young youth who are suffering from having to wear masks and other things associated with school, because the counselors are starting to have a lot of calls in terms of trying to deal with it. I know high school is in particular, but I suspect some of the elementary schools are also sensing some of that pressure from the kids, the stress. So we have to look at that part of it. We have to look at mature adults, the seniors. We have to look at everybody in between. So that's kind of the theme of what this continuing forum would be. So we'll get you more information, but I think we're now ready to start the more formal planning, and hopefully we'll get something scheduled in February. I think by the time we get everything pulled together to make that happen after our February 7th regular meeting. So we'll target that type of time frame. Any questions or comments on any of that? Anybody?
I'd just remind everybody that the meeting that Supervisor Heidel is referencing, that special community council meeting, was in November, and the meeting's recorded, and it's I'm looking at it right now. It's on the APAC website, but the links for all the community council recordings are there. And how about 87 people looked at that in the last month? So it was a good conversation, and it's informative. Things you don't think of that occur to you when you hear people addressing some of their concerns and things that are impacting them or people they know. It's pretty significant. So I'd encourage anybody, if you miss that meeting, it's easily available to you.
Thank you for that. I appreciate the reference and where to go find the information. So With that, then I'll just announce that, and nobody's online got their hand up or anything. I didn't hear anything. So, okay,
Oh, wait. Maria just put her hand up.
okay. Maria.
Well,
Hi.
I was waiting for last comments or questions or whatever.
Sure.
And this is, I'm not sure if this is a good time to ask, but there's constantly this hum about people wanting Trader Joe's in El Dorado Hills. And I think it's a terrible idea to put it in town center or up when Bass Lake Safeway was being developed. However, there's this handy dandy site right across from the Costco that may or may not happen. And it strikes me as that's a pretty good site. It's kind of neutral, unless of course you have lots of opinions about that too. So who do we reach out to? How can we reach out to?
Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's is very selective, like Costco is, where they want to locate, and they go by rooftops and other things in proximity to other stores. But Trader Joe's would be the right place to start, I think, because there's been a lot of conversation for a decade about what do we do to get a Trader Joe's to come to El Dorado Hills, and there's been no real progress, even with some people who have very close connection with Trader Joe's. Do it in pencil for them.
I would also remind everyone that the Montana, the El Dorado Phase 2 has a grocer spot in it. And I'm counting the grocery stores we have here and what other ones are available. And it's a small footprint grocer. So Latrobe Road has a lot more capacity than some of our other roads right now. I did caution that. So you never know who's going to look at a site and say, yeah, you know. But I've heard a lot of people want the Trader Joe's, and they've contacted Trader Joe's, and Trader Joe's doesn't seem to be too interested. But with the growth projections we're talking about, and with not having to expand a major road, that might be something they'd be looking at.
Well, yeah, I mean, I understand we want a Trader Joe's, but none of the sites that have been proposed make a whole lot of sense, because it's not just El Dorado Hills that's going to be shopping at this Trader Joe's, right?
That is true, and I will mention there are several commercial offerings that are coming forward along Highway 50 corridor that might make suitable locations. But the bottom line is Trader Joe's management has to decide that the conditions are right for them to propose, moving into some El Dorado County area and establishing a new site. So my recommendation is go in your Trader Joe's store and ask to talk to the manager or whatever, and see what you can do to get some contact information to try to make sure that your voice of wanting a Trader Joe's in El Dorado Hills, but in the right location, is known to them. So I do know people in the business that I've been talking to and trying to encourage them to try to coerce Trader Joe's into considering El Dorado County, but it hasn't made much progress in the last 3 or 4 years. So, but the timing may be better with some of these forecasts for growth. Like we said, who knows?
Okie dokie.
All right,
I'll
thank
get
you.
started. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Margie.
Okay. Go ahead, Margie. You're muted.
Margie, can you unmute? She's still muted. Okay, Wendy May.
Oh, there she goes.
Oh,
Hi there. I am going to message Maria offline about the affordable housing. Too much to talk about to the rest of the group this evening. But with Trader Joe's, one thing you have to keep in mind, Maria, especially with the Costco location, is they don't want to put a Trader Joe's too close to the Folsom area. They don't want to pull or take away too much of their business. That's one of the reasons why that location has never even been discussed with the owners.
But Bass Lake Road or Cameron Park or one of those other commercial sites.
Further east, yes.
Yes. And even Missouri Flat Road, which has a significant extension, although I would hope they wouldn't go that far east.
Yes.
It's their choice. They have to determine it's the right business model approach and make all that work. So thank you, Wendy May, for that commentary. I think you're right on.
Yes.
Hey, Margie?
Margie, it sounds like you're muted. Can you unmute?
She's
Says she's unmuted.
unmuted.
Sorry.
There we go. We got you now. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I made a mistake, touched the wrong button.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go to item 7. Just a reminder that our next meeting is Monday, February the 7th, here, same place, same time, 5 p.m. And I did get acknowledgement that Jeff Warren, our Director of Environmental Management, will be our guest speaker for the February meeting. He's going to present an overview of SB 1338, which is our organic waste collection and composting program. Waste Management will be the primary implementer of all those programs, but they are going to also make a presentation. Waste Management is to El Dorado County Board of Supervisors. So we thought we'll have Jeff present what the state law mandates, what our plans are, the fact that you may see some facilities already doing pilot programs on it. So it's an awareness type of discussion that Jeff will have. And then once we have Jeff England make the presentation to the Board of Supervisors about what it means on implementation, we'll invite him to a community council meeting to share it here locally as well. So we're looking at this as a 2-part type of event, but the first will be in February with Jeff kind of introducing what the state law means to us and why it's a benefit. I mean, this is one of the mandates that I think is really beneficial when it's all said and done, is composting food waste as opposed to putting it in a landfill, which gets filled up. And then what do? You've got to maintain it. You got to cap it. You've always got various types of methane gas generation, other stuff from landfills. If you can make usable product out of it by composting or making it cattle feed or something, why not? So.
And there was supposed to be a pilot program in the Bass Lake area. When I talked to the El Dorado Hills CSD in October about it, it was supposed to be imminent, but apparently it's been delayed as they're trying to map out how they're going to implement that, whether it be extra collection bins or not, or just the green waste bins. But it's pilot programs, parts of Cameron Park, Bass Lake.
You know, if we compost at home, can we opt out? Do you know?
I kind of
nothing to contribute.
Yeah. So.
Right. Yeah, because I compost at home. Right. So
all
that's
your
one less
food-
trash can I have to deal with at home.
All your food waste is composted at home, all of it.
I'm saying in theory, yeah.
Oh, in theory, I see. Okay, in theory, I'm not sure. In theory,
Anyone
allows
want
you
my
to
spare trash can?
I was curious why I can't go without green.
That is part of the thing, but green waste is collected bi-weekly or bi-monthly, sorry. And there's some suggestion that decomposing food will decompose faster with more, odor or whatever than garden waste would, but who knows? They're supposed to be addressing it.
There's 2 uses for it, as I understand. One is animal feed, cattle feed, and that sort of thing, which you wouldn't want it to go in green waste if it's going to be cattle feed, I don't think.
They're
Right?
trying to recapture it. Yeah.
Right. So you've almost got 2 different sources, 2 different uses for it. How they're going to determine which is the primary use. Are they going to do sorting once they get it? Needs to determine usable organics versus that goes into the compost file, will be mixed with dirt and everything. I don't know. That's a state thing,
I
but
don't want to be that.
yeah. But anyway, it's coming. So we need to become familiar with it. And so that will be our guest speaker next month. And then any suggestions anybody would have for March, April, I do intend to bring back congressional candidate Assemblyman Kiley to our meeting probably in March or April to give us an update on what's going on at the state. But I think he has not, I'm not aware of he's formally announced which congressional district he's going to run in, but he certainly indicated an interest of running for US Congress. So I have my own suspicions where he will announce, but I've not seen a formal announcement. So anyway, things are changing. If you didn't follow the congressional redistricting for El Dorado County, we got cut in half, basically. So half the counties in one congressional district, El Dorado Hills, and the western part of the county is in a different congressional district. So,
And not a district we've been in before.
correct. Well, they did some renumbering because they lost a district. So I don't know exactly how all that works.
So is one of the districts.
He gets to decide which district he's going to run in.
It turns out the craziness of congressional districts is you don't have to reside within the district to run for it.
That's one of the new.
So no, it's not new. It's been there.
Yeah, they brought it up.
So I don't know that that Congressman McClintock has announced which district, new congressional district he's going to run for. but I'm sure he has designs on it. So it's where the competition is probably more in his favor. I don't know. So we'll see. And then the Assembly and the Senate districts also got completely redone. So we're not quite sure how that's going to sort out, but we have an election coming up in June. So get prepared. It's coming fast. And with that, I think we're done unless there's any go backs from anybody on the leadership team, and no hands up or anything else, right?
No.
Again, thank you for attending, and hopefully we can encourage you to come back on February 7th and again, participate in the conversation. Thank you.